This is how a usual playthrough of Look Outside goes. You play as Sam, the unemployed loser shut-in, who finds that a cosmic entity has transformed everything outside and everyone that's looked at it into a mutated creature or like a pipe person or something. So you leave your apartment looking for help and find and recruit some weird and wonderful friends to explore the rest of the apartment and get to the bottom of what's going on. This is a retro turn-based RPG. With a party of 4, the game is pretty reasonable. There's some difficulty spikes here and there, but it's all very manageable. But what if, say, I didn't recruit any friends? What if, instead, I killed everyone that tried to be my friend? What if I killed everyone full stop? Well, that's what I've done. This is the solo Genocide run with the perfect ending, where I killed everything within the apartment complex and everyone that I possibly could. Sounds pretty bleak for a game with core values of friendship and connection, I know. But hey, it was fun to do, I enjoyed the challenge, so come along and watch me get my ass kicked repeatedly. I'm sure you'll enjoy. Some housekeeping before we kick things off. This run was done on the normal difficulty of the game. I set a couple of rules for this one. Kill anyone that tries to be your friend. No temporary party members or anything like that. I tried to kill an instance of everyone in the game. What I'm talking about is door encounters, because those people respawn. It doesn't matter if you kill them. And also, this run was started on patch 1.10 on game's release. I got distracted for a week or two. When I picked it back up, we're up to patch 1.04. Which changed a lot, especially the end game. It made things a lot more difficult. I was not expecting it, and I got my ass kicked quite a bit, so have fun. My general strategy for this run is to try to get as many game skills, gear, and high-powered weapons as soon as I could. Unfortunately, access to these is pretty limited from the beginning of the game and is based mostly on RNG for the game trader or the gun salesman to come to your door. So my first instinct is to rush to the ground floor and unlock the shop, so at least I'll have access to certain accessories that can increase your stamina and health, like the training belt. Sam is pretty weak as a character. He's a poor, lonely, spaghetti-armed man. So his maximum health and base stats are pretty low. They're some of the lowest in the game. Luckily, his access to weaponry and his ability to learn game skills make him incredible. The problem that poses for me, however, is that at the beginning of this run, Sam is very vulnerable to death. He can be killed by normal enemies pretty easily, and healing items are scarce. So I'm being very safe, I'm taking very few risks, and I'm just picking up what I need to. Okay, so jumping into what's happening. We're on floor 1, and we've just collected the rat baby. I had to explain this to the stream as well. We're not keeping the rat baby. Sorry about that. Proud parent of the rat baby. And he becomes a little friend of yours, but you have to make quite a sacrifice for that to be the case, and I'm not doing that. Yeah. Sorry. There is a few early game weapons we can get our hands on from the get-go. The pistol is found on floor 2 after defeating Lee. Everyone will find that. The hunting shotgun is in the back of Frederick's apartment, which is what we're doing here. And the old rifle is found in the teeth apartment across from yours on floor 3. I returned home at this point because the danger level was too high and the shadows were starting to spawn. And if you didn't know, the shadows do have an instant kill move, which will be a game over for me immediately. Taking a detour here into the teeth apartment across the hall on floor 3. The old rifle is found in the safe here, which will be a big boost of damage. Conserving ammunition is a big part of this run. I'm trying to use whatever I can, melee weapons, thrown forks, plates, whatever, to try to conserve my ammo for harder fights. Luckily, there's nothing too difficult in this apartment besides the baby itself, which I had to use the old rifle to defeat. This fight isn't too difficult if you finish it quickly. If you let it draw out, you're going to get destroyed. So just use a rifle like I did, or maybe a consumable if you want to. At this point, I rushed straight downstairs to the ground floor because I wanted to get that training belt I talked about earlier. Double the health this early on is very necessary. Sam is super squishy. Having 100 health is just a risk. Funny thing about the training belt though, if you put it on and heal the full and then accidentally press the optimize button and it takes it off, it reduces your health to half. And then you try to fight this idiot in the bathroom and he kills you. Ha! Yeah, so that sucked. First death of the run.
What happened? The game break?
Anyway, moving on. It's day 4 now, and the priority is getting better gear so that we can survive the fights ahead. Luckily, there is some gear that can be accessed on floor 2 once you visit the laundry on the ground floor. I ran into a silly mask man in the hallway, and I just wanted to show this to prove you can't kill him. You can't even fight him. Kinda sucks. So in Jean's apartment, her body's gone completely wild since we last visited and turned to some kind of monstrous Hydra. Luckily for us, all the Hydra heads have smashed into the apartments next door and have revealed some pretty good gear. So we're going to murder Jean and then go collect all that. There's 3 pieces of gear here that are going to give us a really good head start. The motorcycle helmet, the studded jacket, and the vintage sneakers, which give us a stat spread that ends up looking like this. Our next priority is game skills. What I'm looking for is Octo Strike from the game Octo Cook and Numbness from the game Super Jump Lad 3, but I need the game trader to come to the door in order for that to happen. So I start spamming time in the apartment, waiting for door encounters. First visitor we got was Sophie. I just had to turn her away. You can't let her into the apartment or even be nice to her in any way. No, I didn't kill her, you sick freak. You can't kill her. Whoops. Anyway. Next visitor was Dan. Some of you can kill. So I killed him. Not a big loss. Bye, Dan. While I was waiting for door encounters, I learned the game skill Nitro Boost that raises your agility and evasion. Luckily for me, the next door encounter was the game trader. Exactly the one I was looking for. He's pretty rare and pretty hard to find, so this was brilliant luck. He also had Super Jump Lad 3 and Octo Cook, which is awesome. I spent the rest of the day playing Octo Cook. I ended up having to sleep to day 5, but we did learn Octo Strike fairly early the next morning. I was pretty keen to see how viable Octo Strike was, so I went over to the frozen apartment across the hall. And yeah, Octo Strike works pretty damn well at this part of the game. The only issue I have here is that with the training belt on, double health, I have half the stamina, so I can only use Octo Strike twice before I have to tap off my stamina, and I don't have a lot of ways to do that at the moment. With my current setup, I felt pretty confident taking on Pom Pom. Wasn't a very difficult fight. He froze me once or twice, but Octo Strike does a lot of damage and a Molotov doesn't hurt.
Well, that went pretty well actually. His ass kicked.
Next up is the telescope apartment. I recall this guy being pretty dangerous, but didn't seem like it.
Oh no, that's the one that does damage.
Whatever, that was piss. In fact, it seemed like my setup was a little too good. Nothing really put up much of a challenge
Feel
here.
the urge to run away. Bring it.
Sorry, stretch face. Suck. So what Octo Strike does is it attacks 8 times in one turn at random enemies and does about 20-25% of your normal damage, but if you're attacking with the weakness of the enemy, the damage stacks up like crazy. With my early game preparations complete, I started going down the first 3 floors and just cleaning up all of the stragglers. Our killing spree took us to Fred's apartment to start wiping out all the fake Freds. There wasn't really a challenge here. Now that I've got the specs where I need them to be, they all went down pretty easily. I decided to get the reward from the doppelganger Fred, but the paint palette kinda sucks, so that was a waste. When I was fighting these rats in the basement, I realized that my hit rate had just dropped through the floor. I could not hit these guys, and I couldn't figure out why exactly straight away. But I realized that I had gained the lonely status from not interacting with any characters or having any party members. In order to avoid this early on in the game, you can search social media back in your apartment for 5 points of social. The lonely status drops your hit rate by, I'm not sure how much, but it felt very substantial. So that's another aspect I'd have to look out for. There is another way to gain social points in the basement, but that's not going to be for a while. The lonely status was a huge obstacle in the run. Luckily, guns and ranged weapons and items don't seem to have the same drop in hit rate. Octo Strike also didn't miss nearly as often, but I still had to make sure that I had it under control. Oh, she's looking for a daughter. Sophie's mum rocked up at this point to ask if I had seen her. I just told her I didn't because I was being a dick. She wasn't mutated, so I couldn't fight her. So that's a missed opportunity, I guess. I needed to address my stamina situation and how low it was and how often I had to refill it. So I went down to Mutt's shop at this point to buy the coffee machine. But luckily for me, the breastplate was also on sale. It seemed like a good deal, but I didn't realize how much of a difference it would make. For those that don't know, the coffee maker makes 4 cups of coffee a day, which regenerates stamina. So this was my way to sustain Octo Strike. I accidentally ran into this guy when I was making my way through the ground floor, and fighting him I realized that the breastplate had made a huge difference to my combat capability. With a defense of 40, this guy couldn't do damage to me. Either could this guy. It just kept coming up saying, Sam takes no damage, Sam takes no damage. So I had to do some testing.
Hey, this might be easy mode now.
So here's what I figured out. With 40 defense, nearly all normal attacks that enemies can deal do no damage. Normal attacks being anything in between a skill round, anytime it just says so-and-so attacks you. This also affects multi-hit attacks. So when someone tries to hit you like 8 times in a row, almost never does any damage. Skills and special abilities from enemies seem to penetrate your armor straight away. If the enemy has a gun, then the damage is calculated by ballistics, which is a different story. Getting back on track, I visited the taxidermy apartment on my way back home because the door was open. I was feeling pretty confident. I've been through here a couple of times on the last patch, but now that my game was post-patched, I realized this place got a tune-up. This place seemed more dangerous than I could recall, but it seemed manageable. So I made my way through and I got the first big surprise of the run.
What the fuck was what?
Yeah, so that guy just one-hit me, despite the armor and the double health. No, round 1, dead. Yeah, so I'm not going back there for a little while. I decided to continue massacring everything on the 3rd floor, which was a lot more manageable. So, yeah, screw you, taxidermy apartment. Screw you, alligator.
Jesus. Okay, he's asleep. How does he attack me if he's asleep? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
The overgrown apartment isn't a huge risk, but these guys spread status effects like crazy. In hindsight, I really should have had numbness here, but I'm an idiot, so what can you do? Also, I became lonely right here at this point in the apartment, and it made life hell.
Oh my god, why can't I hit anything? Am I so lonely that I can't hit anyone? Like, what does that mean?
Okay, enough procrastination. Back to the taxidermy apartment. Let's see how this goes.
Your trouble is this crocodile asshole. If he decides to just one-tap me, I'm very upset about that. Yeah, fucking hell. Like, that is insane. 180 damage dead. Like, who thought that was a good idea?
Okay, here's the deal with this douche. So he does that chomp down ability on the first turn, and then the third turn, fifth turn, every 2 turns. So you have to guard your first turn to take half damage, and then blast him the second turn, guard the third turn, blast him the fourth turn. Just use your acid flasks if you're alone, but I'm sure this isn't an issue if you have a full party.
No damage. It's huge. Please die. Shit, please die. Oh, thank fuck. That is stupid. 160 XP. Bro, you tuned that guy up way too much.
Funnily enough, the boss of the taxidermy apartment wasn't nearly as dangerous. I don't know what the deal is with the alligator. Maybe it seemed like a good idea, or it's just something that specifically affects solo runs, but he sucked. At this point, my Sam is level 13, I have almost 300 HP, over 40 defense, and I've got some decent weaponry, so I head down to the landlord's apartment to go through this living hell. There are so many enemies here, and I killed them all. Maybe I missed a couple of land mites, but I'm not holding myself accountable to that. There's so many of them, and you don't know where they are. It was frustrating, especially since I died once or twice here by getting overwhelmed by the soldiers, which sucked. I lost maybe 2 hours worth of time.
God damn it.
So on my way back to the landlord's apartment, I decided to fight this giant hand guy. He doesn't have a lot of surprises besides the stun that you get from the trample move. Otherwise, he was okay. Back in the landlord's apartment, I tried to fight this guy, but you can't. He just says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I collected a sapper charge so I could blow up this hole in the wall. The war rifle is hidden back here, and it's a straight upgrade to our old rifle. I headed back to the apartment after clearing most of the landlord's apartment to craft some things and go to sleep for the night, and killed a couple of visitors that came to the door. The food trader isn't really worth killing, but Helen is definitely worth taking out. Her whole kit, machete, the welding mask, and the hoodie is worth almost $400. Back on the ground floor, it was time to fight the landlord. This guy is pretty annoying because he has a resistance to firearms and a self-healing ability. It ended up just being a battle of attrition and went for way too long. One benefit to clearing at the landlord's apartment is that these soldiers can passively drop ammo crates, which is awesome. They contain a lot of ammunition for weapons I'd need later on. Also, the army helmet for the landlord is a straight upgrade over my motorcycle helmet. Here's an unexpected interaction from this guy on the way to the basement.
Whoa! What? Where did that come from? He squeezes hard, instant death. What? He didn't grab me.
That crawler guy died pretty easy the second time around, so we proceed to the basement. My first stop in the basement was with Anton, the comic book nerd. I don't even remember this dude from previous runs. I'm pretty sure just murked him straight away, but he is a real challenge for a solo player.
Holy shit, he is counterattacking the shit out of me. What is going on? I'm glad I saved. Who the hell is that?
My second attempt at Anton was pretty woeful as well.
Drills acid straight away. Ow. Ow. Bro, like, how you live through this? What the fuck? He immediately kicks the shit out of you.
The rest of the basement seemed okay, but my defense wasn't holding up like it did in the previous floors. I had to find some way to deal more damage.
She was a lot easier than
Still feeling fairly confident about my build, I continued to the rest of the sewers, but I got a wake-up call from the boiler beast.
I'm still stunned. Why? What? 155. This is so stupid.
Okay, change of plans. I need to reset and go back to the drawing board. I'm level 15 now, but I've entered the end game. I need my guns and game skills on point. Eugene is the first stop, so we can murder him, take his gun, and all the stuff in his shop. We're going to need a lot of money for when the gun trader arrives at the door. I'm planning on purchasing the Gatling gun and the high velocity rifle and all the bullets I can possibly handle. Okay, here's a fun interaction with our friend Nestor. I let him get infected and turn to a gross freak, and then followed him back to Eugene's shop. Even though Eugene's dead, you'll still see this cutscene where he kind of steals his body and eats his face, and he'll give you a copy of the custom handgun again, which is cool. If you had a party, then you'd have 2 people with the custom handgun. For me, I just sold the spare one. Extra money, I guess. When you leave the cutscene, Eugene's still dead. Or Nestor / Eugene's dead. Whatever.
And he's dead.
Selling Eugene's wares got me a ton of money, and I had 7 ammo belts for the Gatling gun. So now all I had to do was hope that the gun trader spawned at the front door. Sounds pretty easy, right? Right? Wrong! I ground for this gun trader for 8 days straight until the game over screen. Twice! I was at this for 3 hours. He never came. For the life of me, I couldn't get this guy to spawn. I killed all the traders multiple times. I killed the companions multiple times. I killed Ernest like 3 times. I killed Morton twice. I killed Helen probably about 7 times. I don't know why, but Helen kept rocking up and I kept killing her and she'd just rock up again, like sometimes the same day. I don't know what's going on with this. It's almost like the game has a mercy mechanic where it says, oh, you only have 1 party member, we'll give you a companion, like really often. I don't want companions! And if I kill them, take them out of the encounter pool. I need the goddamn guns. So yeah, I accepted reality. I wasn't going to run to the gun trader this round. So I learned the game skills that I needed and decided to set my sights on the weapons I could get, guaranteed. The submachine gun and the silver magnum, as well as the chainsaw and some other goodies from Mutt's shop. So here's another big surprise. Big tongue guy. Absolute nightmare for a solo player. He licks you once and you get every status effect in the game, it feels like. I couldn't even fight this dude. I went through the whole garage and underground, cleaned out the spore labyrinth, and this dude licked me once and destroyed me.
Oh my god, are you kidding me?
Anyway, back to the basement. So with the skill running tackle and numbness, I was able to conserve a lot of ammunition and healing items going through the basement. Running tackle with my current defense dealt 67 damage for 1 stamina point, and numbness makes you immune to status effects for 10 rounds, which made the Spore Queen and the Sewer Monster much easier. Yeah, so I was mean to Philippe and then I murdered him. Sorry, I know people like him. He's dead. The whole fungus labyrinth is a bit of a joke when you have numbness. Without the status effects, without the poison and the disease, these guys can't really do any damage. The Spore Mother fight in particular is incredibly easy. She can't charm you, she can't heal herself, you just attack her until she goes away. I ducked back to the basement to collect the submachine gun, grenades, and ammo from this storage room. The next stop is the garage, and we'll have to fight the police car, the SWAT vehicle, and of course, Hellcar. The garage actually wasn't too bad. Using numbness, these guys are more scary looking than they are threatening. So I went through, activated the elevator, collected the janitor's keys from the big worm, and went back to test my build against the Hellcar.
Hell, 250.
Okay, so Hellcar. This guy is a pain in the ass. What he does is he swallows you after you deal about 200 damage. When he swallows you, you get stuck in the back of the Hellcar, surrounded by the passengers, the previous people that he has swallowed. So you have to kill the passengers. Then the wipers, the wheel, and the rear view mirror will spawn. You have to kill each one of those, and then his face will spawn in the windscreen. And you have to kill that. So it's a 3-phase fight, and you have 6 turns to do it. So if you don't kill the Hellcar in 6 turns, he takes you straight to hell, and it's an instant game over. So this guy is more of a combat puzzle than an actual boss, as he doesn't do much damage, but the looming instant death is there at all times. This first attempt, I went in with the double-barrel shotgun that I'd gotten out of the trunk of the car in the garage. That was a mistake. I wasted turns reloading, and I didn't even beat his second phase before I ended up in hell. Got the achievement though, so that's pretty cool. Second attempt, I went in with the submachine gun. The Pray and Spray ability fires 12 bullets randomly at targets. It's fairly decent DPS, but the Hellcar still edged me out. I just wasn't dealing enough damage to get it done in time. I started testing a lot of different loadouts and different weapons and combinations of items and explosives trying to get through this one. I got fairly close in one run with the spray and pray ability and a lot of acid flasks, but he still edged me out. I needed to change something. The last guaranteed gun that we can get our hands on is the silver magnum down at the ground floor. I took a little detour to go kill our amateur rider friend here, and the goober that's hanging around in the convenience store. The silver magnum deals around the same damage as the war rifle, but it can be fired in a 3-round burst. It has 6 rounds in the clip, so you can get off the burst twice before you have to reload. The biggest issue with the Magnum is that you barely get any bullets in a run unless you get really lucky with ammo cases in the landlord's apartment. While I was on the ground floor, I also picked up the crossbow and decided to go wipe Cinnamon so that I could give Jasper the rest of the offerings. You don't get access to many special bolts for the crossbow in a run, but the fire and the explosive ones are particularly good. With my preparations complete, it was time to return to the Hellcar. Okay, so here's the winning strategy. First, use numbness to get rid of the blind that he may proc on you when he first enters the battle. You can't be missing any bullets for this to work. The countdown to hell doesn't start until you get into the back of the car, so you have a bit of time to work out your strategy. I used an acid flask, but that's just to speed things up. Now that we're in the car, there was a very specific order that I had to use my attacks. First, I used the Magnum's multi-shot to kill the passengers. I missed a shot here, but luckily the Magnum deals enough damage to wipe them out. For the wheel, the mirror and the wipers, I used explosives on round 2 and round 3. It should deal enough damage to kill them all. However, there is some variance there, so you might get unlucky. I got incredibly unlucky. This wheel probably has about 10 health. Luckily we still have 3 more turns, so I used running tackle just to finish him off. On round 5 I used an acid flask. The Hellcar is weak to acid, so this dealt great damage. On the last turn, I dumped the rest of the Magnum and got incredibly lucky.
Oh, thank Christ. 550. Ooh. All right.
I picked up the Hell Sword, but honestly never used it. After Hellcar, I disassociated my way right through the basement. I revisited Big Tongue Man and Anton. And without the status effects, these guys are easy. If I was a smart man, I would have been using numbness from the beginning. But yeah, I'm not that lucky. With floors 1 through 3 and the ground floor cleared, we only have the furnace left. I prepared as much as I possibly could for this fight. I was expecting it to be probably the hardest thing in the run. I remember struggling with this guy more than the Exalted Four and every other boss. But honestly, with numbness going and my current kit, Furnace doesn't pose that much of a threat. He's kind of like a light version of the Exalted Four. Every few turns, he'll heat up and bomb you with a bunch of damage, but this damage seemed to slowly drop off throughout the rest of the fight. That's not how I remember him operating, but maybe the update had something to do with that. So essentially his rotation is do a bunch of damage, wait till he bombs you with his furnace blast, heal with a stimulant or something else that sorts you out, and then just continue dealing damage. Between the big bomb, he doesn't do much. I did decide to use the rest of my Magnum ammo on this guy, thinking that it would be necessary, plus I had so many explosives that I was kind of just throwing them away. In hindsight, it was probably a poor decision. I didn't expect the Exalted Four to be as hard as they were. While I fight this guy, I should mention that the lonely status was still affecting me. After a certain amount of time, you gain too much loneliness and social media doesn't overcome it. So at this point, I was isolated, which meant that my dodge rate and my hit rate was really low. But I used guns for nearly every encounter, later in the game, and it didn't seem to matter that much. Plus, I was eating every single shot that I was taking, and I just kind of worked around that. My strategy was to have really high defense. It didn't really matter against a lot of these guys in the end game, since they're so loaded with skills that they hit you anyway. Unlike the final boss, the furnace doesn't hit you with a percentage-based attack when he explodes. He just kind of deals maybe like 200 to 300 damage, depending on your defense. This is probably a lot scarier when you have a party of 4, because it hits everybody, but when it's just you dealing with it alone, he kind of seems a little weak. Okay, so taking inventory of what we have left at our disposal after going through the basement and fighting Hellcar and fighting the furnace, I've used all the rifle rounds. I have plenty of shotgun, but the shotgun doesn't seem that viable. The Magnum is completely depleted. I've used all my pistol bullets. I was too isolated. I had to use guns to fight, or I just couldn't hit anybody. Octo Strike got retired. Running Tackle got retired. Numbness is carrying me through the rest of the game. Disassociating is so powerful. And yeah, I could have cured my isolation with the card game down in the basement with the guys around the fire, but I killed them already. I didn't realize. I completely spaced on it. I got too bloodthirsty. The blood rage overtook me. Okay, so here's what I'm working with. I've got the crossbow with a couple of special bolts, but they're mostly acid. I have the chainsaw and the hell sword and the furnace blade. I have my submachine gun with most of the ammo that I collected for it. I've got a few explosives, I've got a few Molotovs, and a ridiculous amount of healing items, which I'll more than likely need. So I had to try this one a couple times, different strategies, because I just didn't know it was going to work. So here we are. It's all led up to this. The final fight. This theme is awesome. I love the setting. It's so cool. Time to call the visitor. Let's get started. Who brought you gifts? Gazes upon us. Black. Okay, so the 4 astronomers turn into the Chaos Quartet in Phase 1. It's definitely the hardest part of this fight. The Chaos Quartet has a move where he says he gazes off into eternity and it can instant kill you. And since these guys get 4 attacks per turn, it can come out multiple times. If you get unlucky, you're just dead. And it happened to me quite a few times, to be honest. Stumble alone, might. Oh, what the fuck was that? Instant kill. The other complicating factor with fighting these guys is I didn't want to waste my good consumables, because the next phase of the fight is a battle of attrition when you're solo. Nice little breather to heal up. I'm level 18. I have decent health. I've got everything I can have. Except for the Gatling gun. That probably would have made things easier. Final fight. Final phase. Exalted Four. I relied on my machine gun for DPS to try to outpace his heals. Without a full party, that's a serious concern. If you're not dealing damage often enough, he'll just heal more than you're dealing damage. His sustain is really high, and this fight drags on for so long. It is a true fight of attrition. I had to do it a couple of times to learn the rotation and where I could use my heals and where they were most efficient. Using skills in this fight outside of numbness is almost not applicable. he'll drain your stamina every few turns, and it's not worth the risk. Okay, so this guy essentially broke down into a combat puzzle just like Hellcar and a little bit like the Furnace. So essentially he has a rotation of using his red lasers, his blue lasers, his yellow lasers, then his green, then his ultimate charge up laser, and then he repeats. So red, blue, yellow, green, ultimate. What I had to do is ensure that I had numbness going at the beginning of the fight, so I didn't take status effects from all of these lasers. And then do my damage on red and blue, throw an explosive on yellow. Yellow laser always reduces your health by a certain percentage. It was probably like 80%, maybe 85%. So it lowers you all the way down. And on the next turn after yellow, you'd have to use a stimulant or an elixir, of which I had quite a few. So use one of those, pop back up, just in time to eat the green laser. And then the ultimate laser, these ones aren't too much of an issue. They don't deal a lot of damage. None of them do, except for yellow. Once they had repeated this phase twice, just before the ultimate laser, so essentially the 10th turn, re-enable numbless so that it's on for the following 10 turns. And then I did this about 10 times. The fight lasted like 20 minutes. But eventually it worked out. So I'll play the rest at quadruple time because this is such a long fight. And that's one full rotation. Imagine doing that 10 times. A brief warning for anyone who might have epilepsy out there, this is a lot. And he starts shaking like crazy the more damage you do to him. He's like shaking around the screen in that figure 8. It's a bit much on the eyes. Yes! I did it! Fine. My Sam definitely didn't deserve it, but I gave him the happy tree ending. He worked pretty hard for it. So here's a fun little montage of me killing everyone that's nice and lovely to you. Enjoy! There's really only one way to end a run like this, and I think it's pretty fitting. Pause. The end. Alright, well, thanks for watching. See you next time.
Cheese man, cheese man.
Who keeps saying cheese man?
Cheese man.